Today's Dolly transformation will feature not one, not two, but three very scary American girls.
Shelly, are you flexing?
I am. Look at me with my filthy American girls. I have three beautiful, disgusting, kind of smelly American girls today. So I will explain their backstory. So we see American girls like pretty often at the flea market. And we don't by any means buy every American girl out there or every Barbie. Like, there's plenty of times we see things and we walk away because, you know, you can't rescue them all. However, in recent years, I feel like the prices on these dolls have gotten even cheaper because people just don't really see them as valuable unless they're older, and if they're aware that they're older. Most of the time, people are selling them really cheap, and these dolls were exceptionally cheap. So the reason I brought all three of them home was because the Bitty Baby, this is the last like classic Bitty Baby from like the original releases of them that I didn't have. She is the Hispanic baby. That's what American Girl called her. I know that's not like the proper terminology. She is the one with the medium skin tone, and I have the Asian baby, I have the African American baby, I have the Caucasian baby, and I have the Caucasian brunette baby. And I have wanted her for years, and I had just filmed my Bitty Baby collection video, and lo and behold, look who turns up at the flea market. And I recognized her right away. She is really dirty, so I had to like question for a minute, like, is this doll just so dirty that it affected her skin tone? But no, she is actually, like, if you look closely, she has this beautiful like golden skin tone. So I wanted her, and when we inquired about the price, the lady said all three of the dolls were together in a bundle deal for $10. So that makes her like $3.30 something for just this baby, which is a pretty good deal. So I went to think about it, and then I was like, well, I don't really need the two 18-inch dolls, but they are pretty janky. So let's talk about the 18-inch dolls. We have the lovely number 44. Her name is Liberty because somebody decided to do like a red, white, and blue kind of themed nail polish on her. So in tribute to her Americana vibes, her name is Liberty. And then number 29, her name is Ella. When we got her, her hair was actually up in a bun. She looked like a little ballerina, and I just thought the name Ella suited her. Colleen took it down to see if her hair was cut. Obviously rescued the two of them. I'll show you close-ups in, like, you'll see them at the end of the video and their before and afters, but they're scary, okay? Like, these dolls are, they have makeup and filth, and the hair is super dry. Like, yeah, it's disgusting. And so I feel like for your average person, these dolls would not be salvageable, like if you know nothing about cleaning dolls. And I feel like if you are somewhat adept at cleaning dolls, like they're not really beginner level, maybe Ella, but the Bitty Baby has scuffed paint, and this doll's hair is really dry. I would classify her as like a medium grade flea market rescue. Because I've been cleaning dolls for years now. So she definitely will require a little extra work, and not everybody would be able to fix this, and it is really dry and gross, so I can see someone sending her to the doll hospital to get her head replaced. I just feel like as someone who can fix her up, and it's really not that difficult, and it doesn't cost me any money to fix them up, like I can restring them and all that jazz, whatever they need. It's kind of like a little bit of my duty to use my superpowers to save these dolls, because if you send them to the doll hospital, the old heads go to the landfill, and heaven knows we don't need more stuff in the landfill with the way the world is right now. So I have no problem rescuing these two dolls, though I did not need them because I really wanted the baby. So we're going to be cleaning these three disgusting dolls up, and I think they came from like the same person. It sounded like the woman selling them had gotten them from a friend, and they were like her kids or something. So they're pretty mangy, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I clean them. I do have a full tutorial on how I clean them from many years ago, and I have another in-depth tutorial on how I restring them, and then another in-depth tutorial on how I like clean the stuffing and cloth torsos. But you'll get an overview of like all of that stuff pretty much here, except maybe the restringing in this video. So if you're interested in seeing that, stay tuned, and let's get on with the video. So we have some Barbie clothes we got at the flea market today soaking too. This is homemade laundry detergent, color catchers in cool water, and I'm just gonna put what they were wearing in here. Some of the outfits are not real American Girl. A few pieces are. And I'm just gonna leave this to soak for a while. So these are the dolls that we're working with. We have Coco, Liberty, who is number 44, and number 29, aka Ella, and that's the hair situation. So what I use to clean them: a wide tooth comb and a fine tooth comb. I have some conditioner here. For shampoo and body scrubbing, I will be using dish soap. I also have a ton of baking soda in this little dish because they're going to need a lot of it. A toothbrush for getting into all those nooks and crannies, and some diluted gel, Stronghold gel, diluted in 8 ounces of warm water, usually about 2 to 3, maybe 4 teaspoons of Stronghold gel of any kind. And I may use a tiny quarter of a fake magic eraser if they have any like stubborn spots, and we'll see about the nail polish. I'm not sure what the story with that's going to be. For the most part, you're going to see the entire cleaning process of these 3 American Girls, though I did have to change the battery at some point, and there were other like pauses where I turned off the camera for various reasons, but for the most part you are seeing the whole process. They were pretty grueling. I had to go over certain areas more than once, which wasn't surprising because I knew that they were really, really dirty. I started with baby Coco because she was going to be the easiest. She didn't have hair that needed to be washed. She didn't have nail polish or makeup caked all over herself. So I started with her, and I'm just using baking soda on a toothbrush and some dish soap. This is what I always use on dolls, and back in the day, American Girl would actually sell, quote, skincare kits that came with little jars that were American Girl branded, or the one we had was Pleasant Company branded growing up, but it just had baking soda in it. So my sister and I would just refill the canister every time it emptied, and we would clean our American Girls that way. And then I decided, well, if that works for American Girls, why wouldn't it work for Barbies and other dolls? And it does a really good job. There are a few occasions here where I took a small quarter of a fake magic eraser and I wiped down any particularly stubborn marks. Sometimes your fingernail gets them off alone. This is Ella that I'm now working on, number 29. So, oh, this doll. She was a disaster. She did not look too bad. Like, for my purposes, I have my own, like, vision when I see dolls at the flea market. I have a lot of experience cleaning them. Not that I'm an expert or anything, but, you know, I've cleaned a lot of dolls in my day, so I thought she'd be a lot easier than she was, but the reason I just ensconced her head in water, which I know is going to upset some people, is because when I was washing her face, I was kind of avoiding the eye area, as you do, because, you know, they do have opening and closing eyes, but I noticed black stuff kept coming out, and that's because someone put mascara all over her eyelashes, so I had to actually clean the eyelashes. And I am going to show a trick at some point where I blow air into the back of their eyes to dry it out, so don't worry about that. Sometimes when they're really dirty, like in order to properly clean them, they're going to get water behind there and they're going to get really wet. It's not going to hurt them if you take care of it right away. Now I've switched to Liberty because, as you can see, I grabbed some nail polish remover for that nail polish and it was being super, super stubborn, so I put little, like, mitts of acetone on her nail polish nails, like the ones that had nail polish on them, to soften the nail polish so I could peel it off. But I thought Liberty was going to be the really difficult doll to clean, but she wasn't. She was I would say the dirtiest of the 3. She had some really bizarre marks on her,
But other than that, like, it was really just her hair that took longer because she has curls that I had to restore. But you can see here I'm doing a lot of back and forth. I was able to get some of the nail polish on her off with magic erasers and toothpicks because hers was globbed on thicker, and a lot of times it'll just peel off, but I always have this tendency to get American Girls with nail polish on them. And one of my dolls, my Truly Me number 111 that I got at the Salvation Army, who was not even old when I got her, someone put nail polish completely on the bottoms of her feet. But that actually peeled off pretty quickly because of the, amount of it that was there. And yes, I have to do Liberty's face very aggressively because she had, as my sister described it, quote, ice capades makeup. It was this like shimmery, I don't even know what kind of makeup, all over her face. It made her look really gross, and she had stuff in her lips, so there was just a lot of going back and forth and tweaking and redoing areas.
So some of this nail polish is really stubborn. So what you can do on American Girls, I made little cocoons, like mitts, with some acetone on them. It's nail polish remover. I actually don't know if this is the kind that has acetone. Yes, it does. And I had it soaking, and this one came off without much effort. I just had to wipe it and use a little bit of toothpick to get it to come out. I'm still not completely done. So that's what I recommend. But with acetone, if you have a Barbie or a Monster High doll or a Bratz doll or whatever, the dolls that have the hard hollow plastic, that is ABS plastic. Acetone, as in nail polish remover, eats through that. I was in cosmetology school. I remember one of the girls took one of those little plastic cups, poured some acetone in it. Within a minute, it had eaten through the cup. So what it'll do on like a doll is you'll see it almost make a melting effect, and it'll smear it around. This is not ABS plastic. This is like a type of vinyl. So it's all right on them. But with Barbie, if the hard parts of their body have nail polish, be warned that it will do that. I found that out the hard way as a kid trying to remove some marks on a doll. But these little mitts are working out great.
So I found using a metal nail file to kind of gently scrape the nail polish out, because it was pretty thick, so it wasn't like the acetone was eating right through it, but it loosened it up enough where I could peel it, and it looks like I'm being aggressive, but I wasn't. There weren't any scratches or anything left over, though some of the nail polish did stain. And here I am washing Liberty's hair twice with dish soap, rinsing it out, and you'll see me detangling in a little bit. Those are magic eraser crumbs from trying to fix Ella. She had this horrible stubborn mark you're going to see on her face that I'll talk more about in a minute, but this is how I wash their hair. I don't use shampoo. Dish soap does the job. They don't need like gentle shampoo like American Girl says. This does a much better job at cleaning. I don't know what was on Ella's face. It was some sort of clear greenish substance, and it had to have been something in the line of like a varnish of some sort. I don't know, but the acetone wasn't taking it off, the magic eraser wasn't taking it off. So I'm using a little sandpaper here because I scraped some of it off gently with the nail file after soaking in acetone and going back and forth, and then obviously there was like a couple little nicks in her face, so I wet sanded with a super fine sandpaper. Which this in itself, like sometimes when you fix dolls up, you kind of have to decide how far you're going to take it, because sometimes certain repairs can cause some like damage. So this was really difficult. This was the part where I thought I was like ruining the doll, and I was just kind of panicking over it and feeling really bad.
This is like not aesthetic or dainty. Like how they show cleaning things online now where everything is so dainty. It's like, no, listen, the doll is filthy. You have to break out the big guns. It's like messy and disgusting, and
I'm just gonna wash Noelle's whole head.
I would do that, yeah, and condition the whole
so
thing.
it blends in.
And here I'm detangling using conditioner that I just had left over that didn't work on my own hair, and I'm doing a wide tooth comb first and then a fine tooth comb. I use the wig brushes generally, like just when I'm maintaining my dolls, but when they're like this and they need to be detangled, I need combs. That's just what has to be done to properly detangle. And Colleen was actually washing my number 107 named Noelle's hair at the same time because some resin in the hair clip I had made for her hadn't apparently cured, so she was getting that out. So there's usually multiple projects happening at the same time. But this is Liberty's crazy hair, and it's a real shame. You could see her curls trying to reform when I was washing her, but they were just way too dry, so I knew there was no saving them. I was going to have to start completely over from scratch.
You're your stylist on the loose.
And I didn't care about getting their bodies wet because they have to be deep cleaned, so I'm removing all of the stuffing in this clip, putting them in pillowcases, which I did write notes about which doll went in which pillowcase, and I'm going to throw that in the washing machine, as you'll see in a few clips from now. And then the cloth torsos, they can't go in the washing machine because of the plastic cups inside, so they're getting hand washed. And it was time for boil washing. So, American girls have Kanekalon hair, which if you put it in actual boiling water, it goes pin straight. So I needed to get pin straight hair for Liberty because I was going to be curling her again, and you want the absolute best quality hair before you curl. And this helps like kind of get rid of the dryness and adds like sleekness and shine back to it. However, with Ella, I did her second because the water was cooled down, and my hope was that it could maintain some of the little flips that her hair had before. But you'll see in a little while, I end up redoing her and Liberty at some point because at this point I was fed up. Like, I was tired, I was hungry, it was getting late, I thought I had ruined Ella. Yeah, I was not in the best mood at this point. And here I'm just putting the cloth torsos in some laundry detergent and warm water. I knew the torsos apart because Ella had a 2012 tag, and obviously the Bitty Baby doll had her own body. And I just let them soak for a while, and then I rinsed them and hung them to air dry. And I'm now gelling with some diluted gel Ella, but it kind of was all for naught because, like I said, I decided she needed to have her hair boil washed again later on. So after washing American Girls, I always take my blow dryer on the cold setting and I just aim it into their eyes and blow water out of their sockets. You'll see it come out, it'll look like they're crying, and I'll do this for a few minutes until I don't see any water come out. Obviously you don't want to use it with hot air because that will melt the lashes, but their heads were off because I was washing their bodies, and this actually made it a little bit easier. And then I obviously put them aside to air dry the rest of the way. And for the stuffing, I tie off the pillowcases after putting a tiny bit of laundry detergent in each one, and then I run it through a cycle with other clothes, and it can even go in the dryer. It fluffs the stuffing up nicely, so it makes the dolls nice and like filled out. Some people like to replace stuffing. I personally have never done that. I always just wash what they have. Why waste it? Why send it to the landfill when it can be washed? And I did this with hot water and a little bit of laundry sanitizer just to be sure because, you know, they are kind of like stuffed animals and you want to make sure they're properly cleaned. And by the next day, they were dry. Like I said, their torsos air dried. The stuffing went right into the wash. Sometimes the stuffing kind of separates a bit in the pillow, like in the pillowcase through the dryer. You can see it's kind of in smaller crumbs, which is very annoying to restuff, but Bitty Baby dolls don't get packed in as much because they don't have as much stuffing in their bodies. It's just important to make sure you put some in their extended arm sockets and leg sockets because they have like different shaped bodies. But for the 18-inch dolls, you really want to pack it into the booty because if you don't, make sure you're continuously making the stuffing as packed down as possible and filling out every nook and cranny. You're going to end up with extra stuffing left over. And as it was, like, this was Ella's body, but when I did Liberty's body after, she had, like, I think a little bit too much stuffing to begin with because it was hard getting her head on, even though I very carefully shoved it all back down. So it's also nice because if you wash the stuffing this way and you can't restuff your doll right away, you need, like, some time to do it later on. It just stays nice and clean inside the pillowcase, and then the pillowcases are clean, so I always just fluff them up, make sure all the stuffing's out, and then put them back. But it can be a little tricky getting the heads back on. It's a little bit easier if they're the kinds of American Girls with zip ties, but I like how much easier it is with the strings. If you need to get into the body for some reason, you don't have to like cut a zip tie out, you just untie it.
So it's the next day after their initial clean, and I'm gonna do some touch-ups with the boil wash. She has some like little bits right here at the front where her parting is that I'm not happy with, as well as underneath. That's because she got the second dunk. And then this girl, again, I want to kind of clean up along the hairline and underneath because there's a few slightly wavy pieces because I want her hair to be as nice as humanly possible before I put the curls in.
So as I mentioned before, Liberty's curls were not salvageable. They were very, very dry, and they had been brushed out aggressively, which obviously you don't want to do with curly-haired dolls. So my only solution was to make her hair pin straight to restore the condition of the hair, because if I had just washed her and then attempted to curl her hair, it would not have come out the way that it did, which you'll see in a few minutes. So it is more time consuming that way, but you get much better results, and it's also just easier to work with the hair. Now I have a bunch of like different things left over from cosmetology school. These are the perm rods. They're like 16 years old, so I'm actually surprised that only one of them popped when I boil washed over them, which you'll see in a few minutes. But yeah, they're still working, still doing their job, and I use little end papers, and I fold them the long way because some dolls have like kind of little split hairs that stick out. They have slightly different lengths, and Liberty did have different lengths. Her hair was actually in pretty good condition, like it wasn't too damaged or anything, but she had some weird layers because obviously they cut the hair after it's on the doll. So it's like if you have like a Josephina who has like a really blunt cut braid, and then you take her braid out, you'll never get it into that perfect like placement again. You'll always have like uneven edges because they cut the braid after they braid it to make it have that nice edge. So I knew that that was going to make it a little bit trickier with Liberty's hair, but her wig was actually in pretty decent shape. I think the hardest part about curling American Girl hair is that even with smaller rollers like I'm using here because I wanted tighter ringlets, they have very tiny heads, and it's hard to fit a lot of rollers on them. At some point, you're like stacking them on top of each other. It's not easy like it is on a person. And also, American Girls have wefts. Their hair is wigged. So because of that, you have to really make sure that you're pulling sections of hair that want to go together. Otherwise, you'll get really weird clumps. So at various points during this process, you'll see me like taking out a roller, removing hair, or adding hair. And that's because of the problems I was having with the wefts. I wanted to make sure that they sat nicely. I took a lot of time doing her. I think it was about 30 to 40 minutes I took doing just this because I knew if I rushed it, I would regret it, and later on I would end up having to redo things. And I don't really like curling doll hair. If you watch a lot of my other transformations, you'll notice like with Barbies that originally come with curly hair, I keep it straight and I don't curl it again. Well, one of the main reasons is that, like, a lot of my dolls, they're stored away, and having big curls that are prone to getting frizzy isn't practical. So for connect lawn hair, it's easier to keep it straight for, like, hygiene purposes, but also because when I did start collecting again in 2011, I would fanatically curl all my dolls' hair that needed curls, and it became, like, a source of stress for me. It would give me, like, actual anxiety, and I'm a perfectionist, so I realized that it just wasn't healthy and it was taking away from the fun of the hobby, so I found ways to sort of like still have fun fixing them up without worrying about recreating the factory styles perfectly. However, with Liberty, I really did want her to have those tight curls. Number one, because I wanted to challenge my skill set, and number two, because I felt like it did so much for her. She's so cute with curls, and because of her like medium skin tone and her hazel eyes, I just thought it made her look more special. And her hair, when pinned straight, it was kind of wispy because, again, of the way it had been cut in the factory. So I decided it didn't really look very great straight, so I would at least try curling it and see what happened. And you can see I was spending a lot of time at the front and top of her head because I knew these were going to be the most visible curls. So when we used to get American Girl like hair sets from the actual company, like we still have our old rollers that you could wet set on the hair. The idea was that you'd like dampen their hair, put it in the rollers, let it sit for a few days to dry, then you'd take them out and you'd have curls. However, those curls are temporary. So if you want a more permanent curl, which these can be removed, but they're going to last a long time unless you intentionally take them out, you want to boil wash them. And that way, also, you don't have to wait days for them to dry. So you can see I put her in the bowl, and that was my roller that popped. And I immediately started taking each ringlet out of the roller, and I kind of fixed them with my fingers, twirling them, and sometimes I would even take the rat tail comb and gently comb through it and retwist them. And I did this because that way the hair would dry. It wouldn't be too tight, and I could also, you'll see at some point I kind of put the top of her head in the bowl. The water's cooled down at that point enough where it won't make it totally straight, but obviously with all of those rollers in her head and how tight the curls are, they're going to sit a little strangely, so having some hot water and that comb just to make it sit a little bit more naturally at the top of her head was important. Taking out the rollers was a much easier process than putting them in. There was one that I actually had to redo. I think I did it off camera, I don't remember, but the one that popped when I first put it in, I actually had to resection that hair and put it in a curler and then dunk it to make it just as curly as the other pieces. And that's what I meant about dunking the top of her head and smoothing it out with the comb, just so they weren't so springy up at the top of her scalp. And then I'll be using diluted gel all over her hair in a second. I did something off camera with her where I ran her curls under the hot tap and kind of stretched them out because they were really springy here and they looked like Shirley Temple. I didn't show it on camera, but I did that too. And of course I had to pierce their ears, which this is the way you do it for the use of American Girl earring studs. You can see that's what I'm using. You drill holes in their ears. I have a tutorial on this, and I like to do it for all of my Truly Me type dolls, my contemporary characters, because I absolutely love making earrings for my dolls to go with their outfits. And when I unlocked this life hack, I kind of went overboard with it. So I'm piercing Ella and Liberty. I always mark it ahead of time with some pencil, and the key is to start slow, because if you just like grab the drill and go at it with full speed, it could bounce around on the plastic. So it's important to kind of make a little starting hole there so that it goes into the right place, because you don't want wonky earrings or scuffs on the ears or anything like that. I still get nervous doing this, like I'm ruining the doll, but I've never had any kind of major incident, and I've done it on so many dolls.
So, because I did her hair again yesterday, some of the oil got wiped off, like all of it got washed off, which you don't want to leave a lot on. But you can see there's like some faint white casting from where that mark was, where it had to get scraped off. So, I shall show you. We have baby oil. This is really old. This is probably like 15 years old. And there's barely any left, but you don't need much. That's why it took me so long to finish using this. I'm gonna get a little bit on the Q-tip, and we're just gonna massage it in. It definitely helped on her nose, like her nose looks fine still, because that was scuffed before from play, so the white ghosting didn't come back after that. We're just gonna pat off the extra.
So sometimes dolls get like a white ghosting from a temperature change, like if you put them out in hot water, like boiling water, the ABS plastic will ghost, it'll get lighter, or if you get blooming and streaking when you're trying to remove yellowing with dolls using peroxide. This was just from like the sandpaper and like micro bits of plastic. I came up with the idea to use baby oil a long time ago for those other problems. It kind of like conditions the plastic, but obviously you don't want to use too much because oil can decay plastic, but this kind of conditions it, and it improved every time I used it. So, because Ella also, I believe, came in the True Spirit outfit, she needed her own earrings to go with it, because my other pair belongs to Maya, my number 41, who I got at the flea market in 2016. So, of course, they need their own earrings, though they probably won't wear these outfits together at the same time, except for video purposes. But just an excuse to make earrings. Some of these polymer clay flowers came from Michael's Kids section. I got them years ago with a gift card. And then the little butterfly charm was from Amazon Vine. I got it as like in exchange for leaving a review. It came in like a big pack, and I ended up buying my own so I could have pairs for all the charms because they're really nice quality. And I also added like a little bit of green, which these are little leaf charms that are also from Amazon Vine. I wanted to use them because they were new, and I thought they added the pop of green that her boots have on the embroidery. I did not make Liberty earrings because I gave her the Real Me outfit, and I had just made earrings for that because I had found the shirt at the thrift store. And of course, I made a hair accessory to go with Ella's outfit. Like I said, the Real Me outfit that I gave to Liberty, I had already made a bunch of stuff for that. Actually, it was that hair clip that got resin in Noelle's hair. So that's why Noelle was getting washed when I was doing Liberty and Ella. But anyways, usually I like to use resin when I'm attaching like heavier items. But if it's just little fabric flowers, which I've had these for years, I think I got them at Walmart. And then the little flower cabochon was from Amazon Vine. That was new. I wanted to use that. Those stay fine on the metal clips with just some hot glue. But if they're heavy, I feel like it's better to use the UV resin and cure it because it gives a better adhesion. You just have to make sure you cure it properly. Otherwise, it will get resin on your doll's hair, and that is bad. I also opened the clip and put it over the silicone mat so it wouldn't get glued together. I so apologize that when I go to paint Coco's hair that it's out of frame. I was using my bigger tripod and I don't have a flip around viewfinder on my camera, and I thought I had checked it, but I think I bumped my tripod and I was slightly out of frame. But I have other transformation videos on Bitty Baby Dolls where I fixed their hair. I'm just using regular acrylic paint. I mixed black and brown to get that dark brown that she originally had, and then I like to use sponge brushes, and I kind of get off the excess paint. As you can see, I'm putting it on the palette, and then I kind of just dab it all around her head, and that way it creates a smoother kind of airbrushed look as opposed to streaks from a paintbrush. It's not perfect, and I had to do her entire head because it was scuffed pretty badly, which was unfortunate, but at least it was a dark color. I find with the blonde dolls, it's harder to like color match, so usually I'll just leave the scuffs, but with the dark hair dolls, it's more noticeable, but also easier to cover up. So it just took me a few minutes. This was like really easy, so much easier than putting curls in Liberty's hair or dealing with whatever Ella had on her face, but I also had to fix another bitty baby doll of mine too while I had this stuff out. But it was easy, and then afterwards you'll see I go over it with some sealer to keep it, like, obviously staying on her head. And this is my Liquitex matte varnish. You can see I wrote Shake Me on the top of it because I wondered why it was drying glossy for the longest time. It's because it needs to be shaken up really, really thoroughly before you apply it, otherwise it dries glossy. And I didn't want her hair being insanely glossy because it makes it kind of sticky and look unnatural, which while I had this matte out, I went over my bitty baby named Olive's hair again because she had some damage to her paint and actually like the texture of her head and everything that I had to conceal with like a thicker varnish. So I went over it with this matte to kind of dull the shine a bit. It did come out kind of semi-gloss, which was fine because the paint had like a shiny finish to it on its own, so it kind of cut that.
This is Coco before. Behold, also some glitter on her. Very dirty face. Like she's naturally tan, like she's supposed to be medium skin tone, but there's dirt over top of it. Like you can tell she looks greasy, and like look at her little hands. Like I don't want to know what all that is. It's disturbing. And then this is the back of her head. There's lots of scuffs, and then there's her legs. They are disturbing. So this is Coco before. This is baby Coco after. I have a spare sleeper for her, which is probably era appropriate. I got it at a thrift store a long time ago. She also has a diaper on. She is so much cleaner. And this is the back of her head that I painted. Looks much better, and it's a slightly shiny finish, but not overly shiny. She's so cute. I'll show you what she looks like with her clothes off so you can see her limbs. And this is what her body looks like. That's her diaper. See, she's so much cleaner. No more nasty, dirty grossness. This is number 29, aka Ella, before. Behold all of this crud. I hope the camera is picking up on it. Look at her eye. She has seen some things, and like this shirt, which is not American Girl, has whatever that is on her, and oh look, nail polish. And on her hands. What a delightful surprise. I feel like I always get the ones with makeup. And then the back of her legs, also grubby. Oh look, more stains on her shirt. And of course there's this nastiness on her hair. So that's Ella before. This is Ella after. So she does have a couple little tiny like scratches in her face right here, and sometimes that like white ghosting still sort of appears. It's not as bad as it was. So putting a little bit of baby oil on it seems to help for a little while, and I'm still researching ways I can sort of smooth it out a little bit more. It's like I said, because I had so much trouble getting whatever that was on her nose off. But this is, she's borrowing my American Girl number 41 named Maya's outfit, because all I got was the skirt for her. But I will eventually get her her own, but the seller is supposed to come back next week, and she might have clothes for them. We'll see. These are the cute little earrings I made to go with it. And oh, they also got name bracelets. It's Liberty's name bracelet. And I made a little flower to go with this. And you can see her hair. I did have to boil wash it twice to get like some of the little splitties to lay flat. And that's the thing, like American Girl wigs are prone to getting little splits and flyaways, and most of my dolls have some kind of flaw, and honestly the best way is just to mask it. You know, instead of getting upset that they're not perfect, is just to find ways to sort of work with what's there. And you can see she's all squeaky clean and super cute. And this is Ella's feet without her shoes on. You can see all the nail polish is gone. There's some slight staining from the red, but it's not too noticeable. And her legs are all squeaky clean. This is Miss Liberty, who is number 44 before. So, I don't know if you can see, she has some kind of greasy cast on her face. Some kind of makeup.
Looks like glitter, like she's going to the ice cafe.
I'm guessing maybe some kind of like shimmery lip gloss all over her face, and oh, look at her teeth. And there might even be some on her eye. A little disturbing. And then she too has a manicure and a pedicure and all over the back of her legs. Oh yeah, check it out. Not sure what that is. And of course, the scariest part, her hair. Oh, it's so dry and so disgusting, and it'll be so much fun to clean. So that's Liberty before, and this is Liberty after. So I actually had this outfit. I got the shirt recently at a thrift store, and these pants I had gotten used. And I believe this is like an era appropriate outfit for her based on like how old I think she is. These are just random shoes because I don't have both of the shoes to this outfit, but I do have the underwear. So her hair was kind of the main thing to get over. You can see she does have some damage to the tip of her nose. That's not uncommon with American Girls. Several of my used dolls have little scuffs and things, so it's not terribly noticeable. The hot water I ran over her curls did help kind of loosen them up so she looks less like Shirley Temple. They are pretty springy, but that's alright. And I did put a lot of gel on them, just not crunchy gel, like these are soft. You can see they stretch, but just to kind of keep them from being flyaway prone. She is so pretty. And all of the like nail polish and stuff came off. I'll show you her feet and stuff in a second, but yep. And then this is the back, which I'm pretty happy with how this came out. I am a perfectionist, but considering how dry and gross her hair was, it's really nice, and I didn't want to keep it straight because it would have been really wispy. They're not all 100% the same size, but that kind of makes them look more realistic, because obviously real curls are not 100% the same size. And she definitely is the kind of doll that a lot of people would have replaced her head because of the dryness of her wig, but you can really bounce back this Kanekalon hair, and because she wasn't missing a ton of it, like her wig was actually in decent shape underneath the dryness, that helped. Oh, and I had made these hair accessories and resin earrings to go with this outfit before, so she's all set to go. She's so cute, and I think the name Liberty really suits her, and I love her unique skin tone. And I thought I'd show you her like legs because she's wearing kind of long pants. There's like a slight stain there. It looks worse on camera than it is in real life. I do have to remove that eventually, but it's just not been the weather for it. And you can see the front of her legs. She's much cleaner. I hope you enjoyed seeing these Dolly's makeover process. They are all pictured on my Flickr. You don't need a Flickr to view any of my photos. If you want to read more about them, see additional pictures, see the rest of my American Girls or other dolls, etc. Yeah, they were definitely a lot more work in some ways than I thought. Not that I thought that they were going to be easy peasy, but it was well worth the effort, and I'm really glad that I found them because they were in pretty bad condition, so I feel like a lot of people would have thrown them out or sent them to the doll hospital, and the doll hospital would have just replaced all the parts. So less dolls in the landfill. And the cutest part is that these guys were clearly a doll family. I mean, they had the same sorts of like nail polish and makeup on them and stuff, and they were all medium skin tone, so they clearly were a little doll family, and they all got to stay together, which is super sweet. and I'm so happy to have found them, and there's nothing quite like saving a doll at the flea market. It just gives me the feels. So until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.